Good evening. Thank you for joining the Pasco School Board of Directors. At 6:30, we will start the meeting. As always, I would remind you that this is an open public meeting of the Pasco School Board of Directors. At our open public meetings, we record them for broadcast on YouTube if you search Pasco Schools. They're also available for viewing on Charter Cable TV channel 191. Understand that while it may appear that we're moving quickly on some important matters, we've always had a chance for independent study, discussion as a board in earlier public meetings. Study sessions, board workshops, all of these are open public meetings, and we've had sufficient time to ask questions of the district before making decisions. We strive to understand all the issues and to make the best decisions that we believe are in the best interest of all students in the Pasco School District and the taxpayers who provide funding. And we're fortunate to have 3 student board reps seated over here to my left. They're an important part of our decision-making process. While they cannot legally vote on issues, they're able to come to all meetings, provide student voice and student input, and they also are going to give us a presentation tonight on an issue that they have studied, that they learned about during WASDA, which is our annual State Board of Directors conference, and that they brought back to the school district and discussed with a student, with a panel of students from all of the high schools in Pasco. So we're excited to hear that presentation this evening. And with that, we'll move on to the flag salute. We don't have anybody this evening? We do. Oh, okay. We have Ms. Brooke Schulteis here.
President Lehrman, board members, and Superintendent Whitney, my name is Brooke Schulteis, and I am proud to be the principal at Emerson Elementary in Pasco. Come on up, guys. I would like to introduce just a few of our Emerson leaders. These students were chosen because they exemplify some of the qualities we love to see in our students. Nellie Salas, come on up, Nellie. And Nellie Salas and the students here today saw the devastation that occurred during the hurricanes in Texas and knew they needed to do something about it. So together with their teacher, Mr. Rodrigo Xavier, and our counseling staff at Emerson, organized a penny drive that raised $751 for Brookside Intermediate School in Friendswood, Texas. My friends today here are Nellie Salas, Roberto Acevedo, Julissa Campos, and Victoria Ramirez.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You guys want to take them some pins? Would the students like to introduce their parents or friends or family that are here in support of them tonight?
Today I brought my mom and dad that have supported me with everything, and I'm glad to have them in my life.
Today here I brought my dad with me, and he supports me with all my decisions, and I'm very thankful for that.
Can you stand up or wave or? Thank you.
I brought with me my dad that supports me in everything, and I'm grateful for that.
Where is Dad?
Today I brought my dad, and I'm grateful for him because he has helped me in everything that I have learned in school and helped me make my decisions.
Yay.
So our student board reps have a Pride of Pasco pin here for you students, and we encourage you to continue your leadership. Thank you for helping those less fortunate than yourselves and taking that on as a leadership challenge and activity. And we encourage you in the future when you are 11th or 12th graders, if you're still in the Pasco School District, to fill out an application and apply to be a student board representatives like these young ladies that just handed you those pins. And that's a way that you can continue to learn about your school, your district, be a student leader, and also learn about how education is impacted at both the state and federal levels, along with local control and local school boards. So again, when you're in 11th or 12th grade, we encourage you to apply for that. Thank you, Ms. Schultheis. Next we have roll call. I'll ask Ms. Richardson to please call the roll.
Present. Present.
Present.
Present.
Present.
Present.
Present.
Present.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Next we have special recognition. We have Mr. Shane Ettinger here.
Good evening, Board President Lehrman, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. Tonight we want to recognize a special award that the Pasco School District Board of Directors received at the Washington State School Directors Association's annual conference in Bellevue last month. The Excellence with Equity Award from the Washington School Board's Educational Foundation was established to honor school directors and districts who develop creative and effective programs that promote equity with their schools and communities. The foundation gives their Excellence with Equity Award to one small, medium, and large school district each year, and it includes a $1,000 cash prize that the district can use to support equity in their community. This year, the foundation selected you, the Pasco School District Board of Directors, as the Excellence with Equity Award winner for large school districts. The foundation says they were impressed by the board and the district's efforts to identify a set of results policies to identify and encourage a trajectory of success for students. In the district, we know these results policies as our 5 outrageous outcomes. In striving to reach the benchmark that 100% of our students are reaching these goals, the district is encouraging an equitable educational experience for all of our students. The foundation also admired Pasco's efforts to foster and ensure an equitable school culture and environment in our buildings through the district's renewed commitment to service, a promise to provide a consistent, efficient, and proactive response to all of our stakeholders. Our Pasco promise highlights the district's commitment to a culture where the tremendous value of a cohesive, intentional, positive culture of high-level engagement that brings out the best in everyone is recognized. And finally, the foundation was impressed with the district's initiative to retool the entire organization with new instructional materials that align to the Washington State learning standards in a way that is rigorous and relevant for all learners. That work is grounded in the philosophy that all students have the right to access a foundational educational experience. So, congratulations to all of you on this prestigious honor for the district. Your leadership and vision continues to provide the framework for our district as we strive to provide outstanding and equitable educational opportunities for all Pasco students. Congratulations.
We were honored to have the opportunity to apply for and win that award. The district and the board believe that equity is an important way, an important part of how we do business. And as we'll learn from the students, I believe, in their presentation, report number 10A, equity does not mean equality, and we'll talk about the differences there. And we have $1,000 that we can put towards furthering this mission of equity, and maybe the student board reps and students on the panel have some ideas to help us figure out how we will spend that money. So again, we're very honored, and we thank WASDA for the opportunity. All right, next we have agenda item number 5. We have the approval of the meeting minutes from November 14, 2017. I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the regular meeting minutes of November 14th, 2017.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve the regular meeting minutes from November 14th, 2017. All those in favor, please say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Regular meeting minutes from November 14th, 2017 are approved. Next, we have agenda item number 6, which is the agenda review.
So there are no additions or changes to the agenda as it's written. However, I would like to rescind our request for an executive session, so we will not be requesting an executive session this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Whitney. Next, we have agenda item number 8. We have board communications. We'll start with Dr. Richardson.
Audience comments first? Or?
Actually, we'll do you're right, Mr. Richardson, Dr. Richardson. We have agenda item number 7. We have audience comments. In just a few moments, I'll invite you the audience up to the microphone. Please, you may address the board with any questions or concerns, comments that you may have. If you would like further response beyond what we give you this evening, please ensure that your contact information is left in the back left-hand corner. And also, please try to limit your comments to 1.5 minutes this evening. If you have questions or comments on agenda as items number 10, reports or discussions, then at that time I will also open the microphone for further discussion on those topics. So at this time, the microphone's open. Seeing that we have no audience comments at this time, now we'll move on to agenda item number 8, board communications, starting with Dr. Richardson.
Thank you. Seeing this is our last meeting of the year, I'd like to share a little report, just kind of an accountability for myself for my time on the board this year. Recently, I visited Whittier, Robinson, Angelo, and Twain, and completed the 3rd year in a row where I visited each school, usually classroom visits, school tours, meeting with teachers, and gotten to know most of the administrators in our district and many of our teachers, and appreciate their accommodation and sharing their schools with me. Next year I'm going to do a little bit differently, and I'm planning on attending a staff or community event at each school to kind of become more familiar with the parents and students and families at each school. I continue to create a school board synopsis, 25 in total over my time on the board, approximately once a month, just sharing school board happenings and ideas related to education in Pasco. And if you're interested in receiving that, I share that via email, arichardson@psd1.org. This last year I was our WIAA representative, and thanks to the work of numerous district staff members, we were able to start girls and boys swimming at both of our comprehensive high schools. The boys swim team had their first invite this last week in Walla Walla, and I went to that and attended part of their meet and was super excited for them, and it was a surreal feeling for many of our families and students that were there to cheer them on, seeing that come to pass this year. Last year I committed to work on networking with healthcare providers in Pasco, and I was able to do that, especially around our early learning initiatives. The Ready for Kindergarten that we started this year, I delivered flyers to the 4 pediatric offices in Pasco and encouraged them to reach out to their patients and encourage the parents to attend that. As well, Tri-Cities Community Health, I worked with them and encouraged them in their starting a Reach Out and Read program, which they did at the beginning of this year. Finally, after an immense amount of work from many people in our district and community, we were able to pass a $100 million bond this year, which was amazing and wonderful, and I'm excited to see us finally make a dent in the overcrowding that's really plagued us for so many years. And so just a big thank you to everyone that's been involved in those efforts, and looking forward to the next 2 years.
I also want to congratulate everyone that worked on the passing of the bond. It was, I know it was a long road, and they did a lot of the community builders, the community group did a great job, and I appreciate all their hard work. It was a long haul, wondering from day to day whether it was going to pass or not. So we appreciate all their hard work. I also want to congratulate New Horizons on their open house. They had a nice turnout, and it was nice for their open house of their new school surroundings. And also to Ruth Livingston for winning 10 years in a row the Coat Award, and for collecting the most coats for anyone, any school. And so the evening that they announced it, there was a bunch of kids standing around, and they asked this one young man about what it felt like to collect all those coats be the winning school for 10 years in a row. And he said, it's just that everybody needs to have a warm coat. And I thought that was such a nice thing for that young man to say. It wasn't anything about winning the award. It was just that everybody deserves to have a warm coat. So I thought that was really heartwarming for him to say that. Thank you.
Since we last met, I too was able to attend the open house for the New Horizons High School. Nice facility there, and got to hear some of the presentations from the staff and instructors there. And that has made a world of difference in their lives. I think that'll be a great facility for years to come, and thanks CBC for the partnership we have there with them. Also went and visited Mark Twain Elementary School, spent some time with Principal Pierce there, walking through some of the classrooms and seeing some of the things that they're doing there in their school, some of the awards and recognition. And then walked through, I think we hit nearly all of their classrooms, just looking at the facility there. And of course, like many of our schools, they have a whole yard full of portable classrooms out there. Hopefully we can start making a dent in that. And then on the legislative side, we have had 4 of our 6 legislators here in our district just in the past couple of weeks, making an effort to establish some relationships there with them so that they will reach out to us during session, which is going to start here in less than a month. Senator Schessler was here. We had a good visit with him and talking about some of the needs in our district. And then just yesterday we had the legislators from the 16th district here with us. So I think we've got some friends there. We went and toured the Early Learning Center yesterday with them. And that will be a nice facility as well. There's a lot of work to do there in the next 3 or 4 weeks, but when that opens, that will be 10 more classrooms that we can add to our inventory. So lots of exciting things happening, and stay tuned.
Since we last met at Delta, we had Winter Formal, which was really exciting because we broke the record for most ticket sales for a dance. At 101 tickets. We only have 400 students, but it was a record breaker. And we made the most revenue than we ever had for that dance ever, beating prom last year, which is crazy. And then we launched Winter Wishes too, and we granted more wishes for more students than we have ever before. We were around 80 students, and then now we're around 103, 107. And we granted over 110 wishes. So some students had an opportunity to have more than one wish granted. And we will have the assembly to showcase winter wishes and then individually give each person their wish next week before we get let out for winter break. So it's really exciting.
These past few weeks at Pasco High School, we had college recruiters come in and give on-site admissions to many of our students. And I got to see many students in my classes excited about that. Also, our winter sports have begun, and I was very proud of the last win our basketball team had. It was a close one, 67-64. Also, our Student Advisory Council met, and we've had very interesting conversations, and we are excited for what's to come from that.
These last 2 weeks have been very exciting. As Vanessa mentioned, last Wednesday we had our Superintendent Student Advisory meeting featuring student focus groups, and it was excellent. We got we had great transactions. We got excellent feedback. And then some things going on at Chiawana High School. We had, I want to say last Monday, over the couple days of last week, we had Coco Cafe auditions, and it was wonderful to see. We had lots of students coming out to show how well they could sing, how well they could do poetry, and it was just awesome to see what talent that we had hidden at Chiawana. This Friday is actually our Winter Wishes Assembly, and we've had lots of forms turned into our leadership advisor, Mrs. LeDuc, and this week is our Spirit Week, and it's been a little dampened by the cold, but our leadership students have been working actively to revive our school spirit. And you can just feel the tension at our school. Everybody's waiting for the 15th and 19th to roll around so we can go and celebrate our holidays.
It's been 4 weeks since the last board meeting, which I'm sure the staff is thrilled about. But it's been an eventful 4 weeks. We went to, the board has a board conference every year, and it's either on the west side or the east side this year. It was on the west side, but it is a very educational thing that is so helpful. No matter how many times I've been, this is my 5th time going, I learn so much every single time. We get to hear best practices across the state for things that have been really successful, and that's why we canceled our last board meeting, because as a board, we can't discuss things in a group because we can't have a quorum anywhere. So it allowed us to be able to discuss things that we'd learned and not like it's implementing any new programs. It's a lot about implementing things, and sometimes it is, but this time it was just things that we can do to be the very best that we can be. It was great. Love the open house and dedication. Our principal from New Horizons, Seth, is not here anymore, but that was fantastic. Anyway, had a student speak there that was just moving. The things that they do there is remarkable. It's been fun to start to watch basketball. Been at several Chihuahua high school basketball teams. The McLaughlin Stevens basketball, they played each other, and that was great. They had such great sportsmanship, and it was fun to watch those boys play that could be going to high school together next year. So that was really fun. I too have been really impressed with the serving in the community. My kids, my 2 elementary school kids right now go to Livingston. They're both in special programs there. Our school, we're in Markham, but they're both in special programs at Livingston, and they absolutely love the coat drive. And then my daughter's band class adopted a family, and so they're all bringing these little gifts for this family that needed it. And anyway, and then a canned food drive. I just love that our kids are service oriented in Pasco School District, and it's impressive. So the bond was amazing. That was such a nail biter, and I the night that didn't pass, oh my goodness, it was just a sinking feeling when it didn't pass, and then the next morning woke up and realized, oh my goodness, we have a chance, and we did this. And when they did it, we did it for our kids, and I just want to thank everybody who worked so hard to do that. I was impressed with the bond committee and all that they did, and the app. They had the best app. It was so cool, and you could just go knock doors, and it was awesome how they worked it all out. But it was a huge community effort, and we appreciate the thousands of hours of work that went into passing that bond. So thank you very much. And I think that's it.
Along with Mr. Christensen, I enjoyed touring the Early Learning Center with a couple of our legislators, Terry Neely and Bill Jenkin, and then an aide to Senator Walsh. Like him and like the rest of the board, I'm excited to see that open and continue to expand our services for Pasco's earliest learners. So excited for the next couple months with that project. I attended a small get-together with the Consejo Latino and the League of Education Voters. They were welcoming the 5 new city council members, and I kind of planted a seed. We as a board at our last study session that Ms. Phillips alluded to, where we talked about WASDA topics. We talked about continuing to grow our relationship with the city council and continuing to expand the partnerships and to continue to advocate for our students and let the city council know that which of their decisions impact our kids and how they're impacting our kids. So we as a board talked about possibly creating a committee to increase the interfaces that we have with our city council. I stopped by Mark Twain on the same day that Mr. Christensen did, coincidentally, and even saw him in one of the same classrooms. I went to read to a couple classrooms. I had been invited to read in classrooms for the kindness day that they had a couple weeks earlier, but wasn't able to make it due to schedule, so I got to go into 3 classrooms and read about kindness, and it was exciting. The whole school did that a couple weeks ago, and I think those kind of activities help with the atmosphere around the school and have the kids think about kindness and how their actions impact others. And finally, well, I'll introduce, I have some family members here this evening. I have my son, Landon. You want to stand up? Landon's a 4th grader at Mark Twain. And Lily, can you stand up real quick? Lily's a kindergartner at Mark Twain. And Ella, you stand up? She's a 6th grader at Mark Twain. And my wife, Kim, was here also, but she had to go out with our 1.5-year-old Layla as she was trying to speak over Mr. Christensen while he was talking earlier. So thank you for coming, guys, and I appreciate that. Also, just the season, I'm full of thanks. I know we already had Thanksgiving, but I continue to be full of thanks, gratitude, and just the giving culture that our entire community has, both with teachers doing everything they can to make sure our students have the best opportunity they have, to the community members, to everybody who worked on the bond. So I'm full of thanks, full of gratitude, and full of the wonder of the giving spirit that this entire community has. So thank you. And one last thing. If you're interested in seeing what we talked about from WASDA at our last study session, there were a few people here, but that's available. We recorded that open public meeting also, and you can see the topics that were discussed at that last study session that we had 2 weeks ago.
So I just wanted to echo President Lehrman's message of gratitude and blessing. In this time of the Thanksgiving season is always one where I take some time to be reflective about all of the things in my life I should be grateful for. And then moving into the Christmas season or the winter season, it's a season of blessing. And when I think of both of those things, the work that I get to do every day and the miracle of this job is on both of those lists. So I just wanted to publicly thank all of you who are a part of my Christmas miracle and my Thanksgiving gratitude, and also extend that to the board. I have the best job. I get to go into classrooms every day and see the miracles that occur between teachers and students, and watch the gifts that our staff give the community and receive gifts from the community. And it's I just am extraordinarily grateful. I think I'm the luckiest person, so thank you.
All right, I'm grateful and thankful that my kids are here having fun. All right, next we have an exciting time here. We have agenda item number 9, annual election of board officers. Once a year, as you guys know, we as board members, there's 5 board members seated up here that are elected by the public to serve as board members. We nominate and elect a board president, a board vice president, and a WIAA, or the Washington Interscholastic Athletics Association, I believe, representative that goes and meets with other board members to stay in the know about how that organization's going. So in just a few minutes, I'll open it up. We'll have, first we'll have the election of a board president, followed by the election of a board vice president, and then followed by the WIAA representative election. So before we go on, and I'll open it up for discussion prior to opening it up for a motion, but my wife's not here, she's outside. I just wanted to thank her and my kids here for sacrificing the past couple years, sacrificing family time for me to serve as board president. And it took a lot of time, and it was worth it. And I did it, and I as a person grew a lot. And at this time, I don't wish to serve another term as board president for a couple of reasons. One, I think it's important to get new and fresh perspectives and ideas and leadership as a continuously improving organization. I believe that infusing those new ideas and new leadership helps improve the organization and our board and the district as a whole. And then also excited to spend a little bit more time with my young family that's seated out here. And I did want to thank my fellow board members for the opportunity to serve as vice president for a year, followed by 2 years as president. And with great challenges, there's lots of room for opportunity. And I was able to reap those rewards both personally, I was able to grow, and I think the board as a whole has grown a lot in the past couple of years, and the district as well. So thank you to my board members for giving me that opportunity to serve and lead. And as you know, we've had a roller coaster couple years. I mean, you couldn't write anything up like this. We've had a strike. We've had the opportunity to team and collaborate with the new superintendent on changing the culture of the Pasco School District. We were named WASDA Board of the Year last year with the challenges that we had. That was an awesome honor also. We failed a bond, and then we came back, and as a community, making this happen wasn't the work of the board. It was the work of the whole community, but we as board members are so excited to see it come to fruition that we can pass a bond by a handful of votes. So again, thank you for this opportunity, and with that, I look forward to the new perspectives and growth that will be brought on by a new board president, and I'll open it up to the board to discuss, and if following discussion, I'll open it up for a motion.
Mr. President, I would like to, if no one has any discussion that they would like to talk about. Mr. Christensen served as vice president for 1 year, and then because of some obligations went off as vice president, and Amy moved up as vice president. I would like to nominate Steve Christensen as president for the coming year.
I second it.
There's a motion and a second to nominate Steve Christensen as Pasco School Board President for the coming year. Is there additional board discussion? Seeing that we have no additional board discussion, I'd ask Ms. Richardson to please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Christensen will serve as Pasco School Board President for the next year, and thank you for volunteering to do that, Steve, and we look forward to the coming year, so congratulations. Vice President next.
Can't I delegate that now?
You get to do it right here.
Oh, all right.
Nothing like throwing them into the
Well,
fire.
thank you. I don't have a lot to say. I just, there's a lot going on, and we've got some challenges coming up this next year that we just met today, talking about the change in the 24 credit that's going to bring about in our district, looking at some different schedules, and so that's going on. We've got some changes in legislation that are going to impact us in our funding, and so looking at that and getting that figured out. We've got a bond that we've got to now start working on, and so there's some exciting things that are coming up, and so I look forward to serving in this capacity. I'm sure there's going to be a time commitment, as Mr. Lehrman talked about, but fortunately I'm not as busy this year as I have been, and so it'll work well. Am I supposed to run the meeting now? All right. What's next?
Vice President.
Vice President. So is there a motion for Vice President?
Mr. President, I would like to nominate Amy Phillips to continue as vice president.
So there's a nomination for Amy Phillips.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Do we want a roll call?
Yes.
Or do we want to just yes it?
Yes, roll call.
Roll call. Yes.
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 So thank you. Thank you, Amy. Look forward to having you continue to serve as Vice President. Now, WIAA representative, Dr. Richardson, you've served in this capacity for, has it been a year or two?
Yes, one.
Just one.
1 year. So we've got, we'll open it up to nominations for somebody to serve as our WIAA representative. You're certainly welcome to continue that.
Are you willing to continue?
Sure.
Well, I nominate
So-
Mr. Richardson, Dr. Richardson to continue.
Dr. Richardson, there's a nomination for Dr. Richardson to continue to serve as a WIAA representative. Is there a
I'll second the motion.
A motion and a second. So any discussion? Seeing none, could we get a roll call? Yes.
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 I appreciate his work, and I think he's done a great job in that role, so I appreciate it.
Yes.
You don't have to clap. That's okay.
Thank you,
It
Dr.
prolongs the
Richardson.
meeting, and we're trying to be fast tonight so we can get home.
Good. We'll make that happen. Just for your information, I am currently serving as the legislative representative for the board. That position does not change until June, I think, is when we do that in the summer. So, and I'm willing to continue. However, if somebody feels like we need to make a change, I would certainly welcome discussion on that.
We like you there, Steve. You're doing a great job.
All right.
Besides that, Steve was elected to our region. He is our regional representative to the legislature now, and I think there's,
So-
we'll let Steve say that, because I'm probably saying it wrong.
Okay, so yeah, so just for your information, for the past 3 years, I have served on the WASDA Legislative Committee, which consists of 22 school directors from across the state that serve on that committee, 24 actually, that serve on that committee. I have served with Brian Brooks, who is a school director in the Kennewick District. But at our last conference, annual conference for WASDA, our board member from our director area, who is Larry Ayre from Findlay, he had to, it's a 3-year term and you can only serve 2 terms. So he was term limited out, and I volunteered for that position, and I was the only one. Nobody fought me on it. So
No, we nominated him, and there was somebody else interested, but Steve was clearly the winner, so I'm
right,
correcting the facts.
So, well, I wouldn't say it's a coveted position, but it's a position that is,
More work.
well, it's more work. But I've been going over to Olympia, and I'm looking forward to it. It's it'll be an opportunity to be more involved in the direction that WASDA is going, and I think there's some positive things happening there. So anyway, I will be serving on the WASDA board as well. So enough said on that. Reports and discussions. So it looks like we have agenda item number 10.
So I would like to invite Vanessa Quitos, our own student board representative, as well as Mrs. Julia Dudley to the podium to do a brief presentation. Vanessa is going to be presenting from the students board perspective around some of her learning from the WASDA conference, and Mrs. Dudley has graciously volunteered to be her partner.
Good evening, President Christensen, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. I recently had the opportunity to serve as a chaperone at the WASDA annual conference, and I have the honor tonight of introducing Vanessa, who's going to talk about some pieces that she learned surrounding equity and diversity and how we can make our schools open and inclusive environment for all of our students.
One of the things discussed was equity, and to me, equity is giving every student what they need. Here at Pasco High School in Shawana, college and the high school and AP courses are offered for students who are prepared for higher math, as well as the core curriculum and additional support classes for those who need it. Every student has different needs to succeed, and those needs must be addressed. Equity is important to Pasco because we have a diverse student body representing different cultures. We must make sure students feel welcome despite their culture, social class, gender, sexuality, and language. We are proposing to implement Unity Works for Pasco. We heard at the conference from the Yakima School District. Their high school had a culture festival in which they had music and food from different parts from around the world. And their elementaries, they created, it was paintings of themselves in which they used different colors of paint rather than just white, brown, or black. Those paintings were displayed throughout the school. We think it would be the best for this conversation to be led by students and therefore train the Superintendent and Student Advisory Council on Unity Works so they can facilitate an event for the district, such as the Yakima School District did. Finally, we would like to thank the board for this opportunity. We had fun, and I had sushi for the first time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Quitos. So you were there with 3 other students, correct? And then
Two.
Was there just 2 other students? Oh, okay.
Yes.
So we had 3 students, Ms. Quitos, and then I don't remember the names of the other students were there this year.
So Morgan Shines from CHS, who I also want to acknowledge, had a fantastic showing this weekend as one of our wrestlers from CHS. She took 2nd overall in the tournament. So just as a side note. And then also Job Cardenas, who is a student from New Horizons High School, who has recently transferred to Walla Walla. So that's why he's not here this evening, is he'll be attending Walla Walla, school in Walla Walla.
Okay. Well, thank you for that presentation. Is there any questions for Ms. Quitos? Any comments?
Can you tell us, I wasn't able to attend that presentation, tell us a little bit more about how Unity works?
Unity Works is a program that helps lead hard discussions in a way that's not threatening for everyone. And they help districts make plans to take action. Basically, they start with a project such as, well, they meet with principals, students, teachers, and they go to a training. And there they come up with a plan for a topic that they want to discuss. In the Yakima School District, it was race. And they plan an event so that they can include the community and not take the topic out in a way that it would be disrespectful to some people.
It was fun going to classes with Vanessa because, and it's Joe? Why did I think it was Job, that was it. Okay. Sorry, I'm like, it wasn't Joe. Anyway, Job and Megan. And almost every class we were in, or at least the vast majority of classes we were in with them, the instructors would ask questions specifically of the students. There's not a lot of students there. There is a handful of them from various school districts, but I think there's 600 or something, or 900. How many school directors were there? 900, 1,200, a lot. So there's a lot of people there, and you know, a small percentage are students, and they use them in those classes, and they had some really insightful things. So it's fun to take them and watch them interact and to see what they get out of it, because they often get a little bit different things out of these classes we go to than we do. So thanks.
I just have to really quickly, Morgan Shines came out of a session on gender bias, and her face was just lit up, and she was like, "That was so awesome." She was so excited. So it is, and I said this at the event, what's really inspiring to me is watch other people get so excited about the work that we've made our lives work. It's like you almost learn again about your own profession through the eyes of someone who's learning it for the first time. So it's just another opportunity for us to get re-inspired why this work is so powerful.
Any other comments? Thank you, Vanessa, and we will look forward to hearing further reports on this. You'll be working with the Student Advisory Council, correct, in implementing this?
Correct.
Okay, good. So, well, thank you. Is there any comment from the audience? If not, Ms. Michelle Whitney will be next on the agenda. Outrageous Outcomes, graduation.
So, Board President Christensen and members of the school board, it is my pleasure to be in front of you for the fourth of 5 updates on our outrageous outcomes. I wanted to also connect this outrageous outcome to our study session we had this evening. You had the opportunity to hear from our College and Career Readiness Initiative part of the planning team, which was inclusive administrators and teachers who have been working diligently to prepare initiatives around not only meeting the 24 credit requirement, while that's what triggered the conversation, but really it is at the heart of it is how do we create an instructional experience for our high school students that gets to this outrageous outcome. And for you as a board, what was important to you around this goal was not only are we graduating 100% of our kids, but as they're leaving us, they already have an idea what they wanted to do, but what you said is that's not even enough to just have an idea. We want them to already have paths forward to reaching that goal before they leave us. So to that end, tonight I have, there was, I think, 9 or 12 pieces of data to report on in this presentation. I pared that down a bit. So if there's data that is not part of the presentation that you want me to focus on in a future report, I will do that. I just wanted to highlight a few pieces. So this data represents those students who are meeting standard on our state required assessments in ELA. And you can see over the last 2 years, it compares 15, 16, 16, 17, and you can see in both 10th and 11th grade, those data are trending in a positive direction. Now, we all need to take a gigantic deep breath around this slide. I think the initial kind of visual is a little bit shocking. So let me explain what you're looking at, and then my friend Mark Garrett here might help me out. So this data reflects a shift in the state's testing requirement. So in 15-16, so that green bar with the single asterisk there, the 71%, that data represents the requirement of a student needing to pass an end-of-course exam to meet the requirement for mathematics. So the 71% represents that of the 10th graders, by the time they were in 10th grade, they had already passed an EOC exam and met their math requirement. So this year, in 16-17, I'm sorry, the requirement for mathematics actually moves to 11th grade. So what you're looking at there in 16-17 were 10th graders who actually took that assessment a year early, the state required assessment a year early. So while it's shocking to look at it, it actually represents our 10th graders who are a year in advance of needing to pass the requirement, which is now in 11th grade. So the double asterisk there, and we colored it differently because you really are not comparing an apples to apples comparison in 10th grade. It's a different requirement. Those kids are ahead of the game. If you look at the other piece I wanted to point out is if you look at the 71% and then compare that to the 84%, you can see that there was an increase there in the number of kids that are meeting the requirement. So when you look at the cohort data, there's an increase there. So like I said, I wanted to provide a context there. I know it was a little bit visually shocking, but it does absolutely represent a shift. And I think what we need to be prepared for is this is going to happen to us around these requirements over the next sequential years, because the requirements are changing for us. And we can do a deeper presentation on this at a later date as we continue to move forward.
Quick question, while you're on that slide, is the test the same this year in 11th grade as it was before, or does it include more work? Like, is it the same standards?
So the EOCs were content specific. So students could take like the algebra EOC, for example, immediately following the completion of that class. So if I'm a 7th grader that took algebra in 7th grade, I'm taking an algebra COE at the end of my algebra experience in 7th grade. Now the test is in 11th grade and it's comprehensive. So it will have standards on it that are comprehensive. So it's a vastly different exam.
So it sounds more impressive that our number is at 80.4% for the comprehensive number in 2017 versus those other ones are a compilation of individual classes over time, right? In 2016, the green bar in 11th grade in 2016 was not a comprehensive test.
Correct.
Yeah, that's impressive.
So this piece I wanted to highlight, our graduates are still trending over 50% on those students who are applying for FAFSA or rewarded scholarships. We did see a slight decrease from 15-16 to 16-17. We'll continue to keep an eye on that. And certainly we want to see our students completing the FAFSA and or scholarships. The extent to which our students complete those pieces prior to them leaving us will increase the likelihood that they're actually enroll and actually go to college. The next two slides are connected. This slide represents students who attempted a college class. So you can see that we have an increase almost across the board with a very slight decrease in tech prep. So if you see that the college and the high school is the significant increase there, there could be students who, well, I'm not going to take tech prep for college credit because I'm going to take college in the high school. So that little bit of a dip could represent students who maybe aren't taking tech prep but are taking other college in the high school classes. And then I think in trend then we're seeing more students are actually attempting and earning credit, and you can see a big increase in the students who are earning those college and the high school credits. So we would want to, as an organization, see students continuing to move forward in that regard. This slide represents our graduation data. We do see a slight decrease in our four-year graduation data. We will be bringing graduation data back as a data bite so we can dig in and show you some differentiated data and disaggregate it by groups. I think the piece to keep in mind is while we did see a decrease in the four-year graduation rate, we do see an increase in our 5 and 5+. Certainly our goal is to have kids graduating in 4 years. If it's a comma that they don't make that 4-year, we absolutely want them to stay engaged with us. So what you see in the next kind of green chart there is our dropout rate is flat, which means even though they didn't make it in 4, they stayed engaged with us, they did not drop out, and they remain with us after 4 years, and there's a 1.1% increase in the students that stayed with us and ended up graduating. We want a diploma in their hand. And that's happening for our students. And like I said, we'll bring a deeper disaggregation of our graduation data back at a data bite after the holiday. The number of students who attempt a college readiness assessment, those are things like your pre-SAT, SAT, ACT. The reason that's important is there is a direct connection and correlation between students who take these college readiness exams in the high school and those students who then enroll and then actually show up on a college campus. So it's important to us that we continue to expose our students and make sure that they have those experience of those college readiness exams, and you can see that we have an increase there as well. So again, like the board report that I shared last time, one of the pieces that I'm really excited to share with you is the student voice piece, and that's part of our Superintendent Student Advisory Council. The insight and awareness these students bring to the conversation at that I'm calling it the Super SAC meeting. The Super SAC meeting, again, is just an absolute inspiration. I often find myself like moved to tears and really just think one of them should be superintendent. They know what they need. They know what they need from us to be successful. So I broke it down into just some broad categories around. There was a lot of conversation about supporting opportunities to explore a variety of careers or majors. And I think you'll see some parallels to what the students are asking for and the student voice and what you heard in the study session in the potential of the trimester schedule. And they talked about having career-related electives, broadening the range of electives, using career-based activities for school work so that school assignments are integrated in with that college experience or the career exploration experience. Talked about STEM exposure and reducing the number of required classes that keep students from scheduling or taking what they want. And that was verbatim from a card. You know, we know we have to take these other things, but there's other classes that we'd like to take or we want to take, and we would like there to be room in our schedules for that. They talked about, again, aligning classes with career interests or paths. They would really like the system to inform students which class correspond with future career interests and make different topics available to help inspire different interests in students. And one of the things I think was really profound for me when listening to the students is one of the students says, the way that teachers explain their content will either inspire me to love it or not. And I thought, what a great piece of wisdom for us all to take back into, integrate into the work that we do and the way we make decisions. You know, the way that we approach a content, the way we talk about our work, it will either inspire people to want to do that too, or it will frame it differently for them. And they talked about wanting to have more choices. They also talked about, and this is interesting, it comes up a lot with the Student Advisory Council, the students want us to increase expectations for work ethic, and they framed it this time through because that will make transition to college easier. But our students, because they want, it is, for some of our Super SAC students, it's a concern for them that their fellow students are not taking high school seriously. And that becomes a topic of conversation at Super SAC about how do we inspire our colleagues or our student colleagues in our classrooms to also want to take this high school experience very seriously. And part of what they talked about was maybe by creating relevance for students through job shadows, guest speakers, internships, and again, the way that you introduce subjects would help students really be finding that relevance of their high school experience. They talked about support for early foreign language exposure. A couple of the students on the Student Advisory Council were in the two-way dual language program and speak very highly of that program and feel like it set them up for success moving forward. And then we also had a conversation about advisory. Advisory is a program at both of our comprehensive high schools that I would say is in the infancy stage of systemic implementation. I think we've kind of had it in a variety of different forms at Pasco High over the years, but now both Chiawana are really focused on it. So we asked specifically about advisory, and the students said, you know, it would be great if we could use that time to share information about career options and which classes to take that would correspond to it. And that's absolutely the intent and purpose of an advisory, and we can integrate that feedback in moving forward. So with that, I'd like to invite my colleague, Suzanne Hall, to just give you a quick update on some of the key actions. These are not all of the key actions that are attached to this goal, but some of the ones she would like to highlight this evening.
Okay. So as you know from our presentation earlier today, the College and Career Ready Initiative Committee is all about meeting this outcome of 100% of our students graduating with a career path. And two initiatives that we're really focusing on and trying to enhance is increasing the number of AVID classes and AVID Excel classes throughout our system. And AVID stands for an advancement via individual determination. And what it is, basically, it's a provision of professional learning for our educators to improve college readiness for all students, especially students who are traditionally underrepresented in college and higher education. The AVID system has been in place at our middle schools for many, many years, really growing in the high school, and is now expanding into 5 of our elementaries. So we're going to continue to support that effort. I also wanted to reiterate again the amount of time that our high school teachers are investing in exploring offering new electives that would align to college degree and career certification. And we just wanted to also extend our thank you to the board for having our team present at the board session today. We really appreciate your questions, your thoughtfulness, and your support. And we look forward to coming back with more information as we progress. So thank you.
Any questions for Mrs. Whitney or Mrs. Hall?
Can you just bring up that one slide, the last slide that Ms. Whitney had with the last Student Advisory Council recommendations on internships? Yes, I love this. So I love that this is coming from students, that they said, you know, we want higher expectations. And, you know, I just love everything on this slide, and I think we need to bring some of that back. I don't know what, I'm sure there was reasoning years ago and it wasn't just our district. I mean, the senior projects and internships and capstones kind of went away. But I really think that needs to come back. And that our expectations just increase. You know, this advisory, I'm not super familiar with the advisory time, but a lot of our focus in secondary education the last couple of years across the state seems to be like increasing graduation rates, which is great. But I think sometimes we shift that pendulum and then we kind of ignore like really helping all the kids do what they're intending and interested in doing. And so we're so focused on making sure each child or each student is able to graduate that we miss opportunities to really help all the other students that are on track for graduation to really figure out what they're doing, where they're headed, and providing them the resources they need. So I'm super excited to see where this goes with the student involvement and kind of raising our expectations of we're, you know, just graduating 85% or 90%. That doesn't tell me much if those students aren't prepared with some sort of path and we've given them the resources and the tools and the exposure needed to pursue their dreams, and not that just they walk across and graduate and good job, pat on the back, send them on their way. So super exciting. Thanks for sharing that.
I had a question just about the whole title of it is 100% of our kids will have a career path, whatever labeled. Are we going to be able to measure how many of our kids actually have, you know, I don't know how they do it, a document, whatever with their counselors, but they have, you know, I want to go to college or I want to do trade school. Anyway, and we have that kind of laid out so that their classes can support their goals for the future. And I know that specific plan was that we want I think it's 9th grader. Is that what the outcome is? Every 9th grader will have a career plan?
I think it's when they graduate.
So one of the, on our the 9th grade on track for graduation goal, one of the key actions under that was to create a robust and relevant high school and beyond plan, which we'll continue to work on as we continue to explore the College and Career Readiness Initiative. I think your point is a really good one, Amy, in terms of once our students leave us, collecting data is a little bit more difficult. Our high schools have been somewhat successful in being able to get data around this is what we plan to do. There is data that we collect out of the OSPI system that in collaboration with some of our community colleges and colleges, but that's going to be a heavier lift, and one we need to think about how are we really going to collect this data and measuring. So you said you had a career path. Is that what happened, et cetera? So we'll just have to continue to explore opportunities for measuring that.
But I would love to see if our kids have a career path. What grade are we going to want them to, you know, are we going to require that their senior year or earlier? And are we going to get to a point where there's like, oh, this is the direction I want to go, and each student has their own personal goals written out? Yeah. You know, I mean, I would love to just see data on that piece of work.
Sure. And I think what we can do, I kind of whispered it to Suzanne Hall behind me here, that we are doing a significant amount of work with the advisory at the high schools, where the high school teachers have done a significant amount of work with the advisory, and that's where that work is happening. So it might be an actually really informative and actually pretty inspiring study session to bring some high school teachers in to talk about what that looks like. And again, we're in the infancy stages of it. So we're ramping that initiative up, but certainly we recognize our eyes on creating that robust, relevant plan, not just a compliance check mark.
Right.
That this is a robust, relevant plan where students are guided through this is what my interests are, this is what careers I might like to explore, and this is how my pathway in high school aligns with that. So we can work on how we'll bring that information to you as a board in the kind of after the holiday in the second half of the school year.
Great, thank you.
I don't know if I said this earlier, but I thought it. I'm not sure how to express it. But I think, and we've talked about this, like Mrs. Phillips is talking about, somehow we've got to change the culture or our thinking among our kids that high school is the end. And we get to graduation and we've arrived. And it's just the beginning. And I think a lot of kids, and even my own kids, graduated and now what? And somehow we've got to get them thinking of something beyond high school, beyond that diploma. Now what's next? I think these job shadows, guest speakers, internships, there's some exciting things happening in our community. Most jobs are not that exciting, but there are some that are exciting, at least for me. I'm a hands-on guy. And if we can get those people to come in and visit our schools and talk about what they're doing, or even take some of our students to them. I was visiting with a gentleman the other day who just changed jobs, had a job he didn't care for, but he went over to Per Mobile, which is Thai Light, and he's excited about that, and I'm excited for him. He's going to be doing something that I would love to do, and but they're doing things there, and I took a tour of that facility last year, and there are, there's high school graduates in there making good money, putting wheelchairs together, and that may not seem exciting to some people, but for those who like to turn wrenches and work on things and see things that change people's lives, come from little products or little tiny components into a finished product, that's an exciting thing. And some of these kids, I think, would really like that, and a great opportunity. So if we can get these students in those type of environments, whether it's that, maybe it's medicine, maybe it's banking, whatever it is, then that would be a big win for us. But it's kind of a culture shift, I think, to get there. Many years ago, I was listening to a Zig Ziglar tape, cassette, and he made the comment, he said, there are no lazy people, there are just uninspired people. And I think that's where we have to get to, is something to inspire these youth to want to progress. And so I think that's wonderful that our student reps or the Student Advisory Council identified that.
So real quick, Isabel, I think you're absolutely right about the inspiration, and our students are asking for those of us around them to be those people. Right. So I love what you're saying about the extent to which we can get people out, or our students out, to be inspired by what other people do. Right. Pasco High School and Chiawana High School both do career days. Omar, I don't know how many community members were at Pasco High School, but it was a gymnasium full that spent the day in sessions where they talked about their like I was there, I talked about my career. Vanessa was in my session, actually. But I bet there was 80 to 100 community members who spent the day at Pasco High School.
And
so we came to them, but there is an inspiration about getting to go to Thai Light and see it firsthand.
So I saw that invitation. I thought, man, I would love to be there. But number one, my job's not that exciting. And number two, I'm not that exciting. And number three, I've got to take a day off work. So I hope.
The third thing might be true, that you have to take the day off work, but I think people would think your job's exciting and you're exciting.
Not that I shouldn't take a day off work, and just along those lines, I hope that that those people who were there representing their careers, I hope felt like it was worth it. I'm sure just seeing the students would be energizing to them. But I think when people come in and make that sacrifice, I think it's imperative that we recognize them and send them some kind of thank you. So.
Well, they were very inspired. We had lunch together, and the energy in the room was amazing. And then I was there with them at the end of the day, and it was as well. Isabel, I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, that's fine. I just was going to piggyback off of what you were saying earlier about the job shadows and internships, because that's a norm at my school, and it's kind of baffling to me that it's not a norm at other schools as much as it is at mine. And it's kind of why I've stayed at Delta throughout my entire high school career, because I think it's really valuable. And I have a friend who actually interns at ProMobile, and he tells me about how exciting it is. And there's just a lot of internships that a lot of people don't realize. And I know I have a friend who goes to Chiawana, and she was telling me about her interest, and I was like, oh, I could get you some information on an interview for an internship that was posted by my counselor. And she was so excited because she didn't have the same opportunity at her school. And we've had guest speakers throughout my junior year come in during advisory where they were talking to students who were interested about their careers. And I think it's cool that we're implementing it at all schools, because it's really important for everybody. So.
Just real quick in closing, I had the opportunity to sit next to a student named Freddie Alonzo who graduated in 2012. He actually did an internship in our fiscal services department right here in Pasco School District, and is now working as a relations manager at Key Bank. So, you know, people might not think an internship in our fiscal department was exciting, but Freddie did and is making a career of it, so we're grateful.
Well, look at Joel Mack. They're the cameraman. See,
that's right. We've got a lot of success stories.
Anything else? All right. Any comment from any of the audience members? If not, we'll move on to item 10C, district policy revisions. Mrs. Sarah Thornton.
I've been rehearsing this to get it right. Good evening, Board President Christensen, members of the board, and Superintendent Hill. Why do I keep doing that? I'm so sorry. I rehearsed it wrong, clearly. Yeah, Superintendent Whitney. Tonight, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to recover from that. Tonight we have several board policies for your consideration. The first is district policy revisions, deleting 3 board policies and replacing them with policy 1620 and policy 1630. And these have to do with the board superintendent relationship and evaluation of the superintendent. And I'm going to find them and show them to you here momentarily. So what we're trying to do here is consolidate the existing policies in the 6000 series into the 1000 series, which is the Board of Directors section, to track more closely with the way that the WASDA model policies are organized. The first policy here, the board superintendent relationship, this generally tracks the WASDA model language, but this policy will, whether or not you elect to keep this policy in the future will depend on how your work evolves related to your board governance model. And so this is a policy that we want to have in place right now. However, depending on how the board incorporates that work into these district level policies, this may change down the road. The superintendent evaluation policy is modified to reflect the categories that the board identified as core functions to the district in the new superintendent evaluation document, which Mrs. Whitney provided and presented to you earlier this fall. It keeps certain elements of the evaluation process and then allows you flexibility to incorporate the deadlines and guidelines that you agreed upon into the procedures, which we'll have for you to review prior to your adoption and approval of this policy, and that would occur in January.
Is that it?
That's
for
it on this
or
one.
10C?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, thank you, Mrs. Thornton. We'll go on to
Thanks for the
10D.
work there. That needed to be updated, so thank you.
You bet. I believe I'm with you for the next few agenda items. The next item on the agenda is a discussion of a policy that is would be a new policy for Pasco, and that's related to providing a particular benefit for our senior citizens. And we are working with Richland and Kennewick school districts to develop a Tri-Cities-wide senior citizen gold card. So as I said, Pasco does not currently have an existing policy, but we do extend certain benefits to our seniors who live in Pasco. They can eat lunch at our schools at a reduced rate. They also enjoy benefits related to entrance into certain activities, sporting events, plays, that kind of thing. And the other two districts also have similar benefits for their seniors. They do have a formal policy on the books. And what the superintendents have been discussing is creating a reciprocal gold card program so that senior citizens in each of the three districts would apply in their resident district for this gold card and then be able to use it in any of the neighboring districts. We have captured what this would look like for us in a new policy, which is 4222, and then the districts would create common procedures for obtaining those cards. So I'm going to click out of this and show you that policy quickly. All right. And this would also allow us to continue to develop procedures which would maintain that lunch benefit for seniors who live in Pasco as well.
We've had a senior card, and I was just looking for mine because I've had mine for years.
Right.
It was just a little paper card, but I had no idea it was for lunches, although, but, you know, I think it's a terrific idea.
Sure. And this would allow us, I think, and Mrs. Whitney can speak to it with more, I think with more depth than I can, but I think having a formal process in place would also allow us to communicate more widely about the availability of the program with our seniors.
Yeah, we're really excited just to refresh this whole initiative around this opportunity. And so this partnership between the three districts really gives us the timing to do that. So we in the superintendent's office and public affairs couldn't be more excited about this. Just gives us lots of opportunities to engage our community in a different way. While we've been doing it, we haven't spent time publicizing it, and this will just give us a phenomenal opportunity to do that. So we're very excited about it.
So just to be clear then, it looks like it would entitle them or allow them to be admitted free to sporting events, plays, these types of activities?
Yes.
Anything that's considered an ASB activity.
Okay. And then this lunch, that was a new one on me when I read that, or breakfast and lunch. Do any of them do that now?
So yes, there's not a ton. There's what I would say a handful. There is an individual who comes every day of the school year, and you know they get lunch, but they also get companionship. And I think for this individual, it's an opportunity to interact with people every day at the lunch hour. So even more than the lunch benefit, it's an opportunity for interaction.
So is this like show up at any school, show your gold card, you can get, I mean, they have to purchase it, but any school you can get lunch. That is interesting. But okay, do they eat with the students? Do they eat with the teachers? How does that work?
I'm not 100% sure of the detail. Again, it's a handful of people.
Right. It's a handful till we start advertising. That's what I'm worried about.
So is it any senior citizen, or does it have to be like a grandparent or relative of a student, or is it just anybody from the community with the gold card?
It would be anyone who is a resident of Kennewick, Pasco, or Richland who has the gold card.
You have to apply for it.
Correct.
You
So
have to have the gold card.
Part of the application, I would hope, would ensure some sort of check, right, that they're haven't committed crimes or that, right? So that must be part of the application, I would hope.
It wouldn't necessarily be, Dr. Richardson, for the gold card. That's not the kind of check that we would do for attendance at any of our regular events. If we had an individual who's going to be volunteering in the schools, then obviously it would be.
What is the rate of crime for a 65-year-old and over? Probably.
Well,
probably not huge.
They probably started earlier than that.
I'm not sure it was 65 and over before when I got mine. I don't know that there was an age.
Hopefully they've outgrown.
Is there a reason it's just Tri-Cities residents rather than like Benton? I mean, I'm just thinking of all the little tiny neighborhoods that are close, you know, having like Benton County and Franklin County residents. Do you know if there was any? I love this idea. I love it. But I was wondering about extending that to the seniors in our area.
So the three superintendents have not had that discussion. I think, you know, certainly there's options we can explore moving forward. I think getting the three of us in partnership and then seeing how that goes and, you know, if it goes well, potentially expanding could be part of the conversation.
Just think about the plays and things that you just don't get in a 1A school like Findlay or something. They won't have as many things for our senior citizens to attend, and it would be nice to get the people who are actually in the area that could attend. But love this idea. I think it's fabulous.
I like it too. I have some my grandparents are over 90 years old, and my grandfather served on they're in Idaho, College of Southern Idaho Board of Directors for 20-some years, and when he quit, they gave him a card. It was a gold card, good for activities until you expire. And I don't know if it said that. I just made that up. So he has this card. He's been off the board for a while, and he also likes to write. He was a veterinarian, so he likes to write an update to the family and email it out every week. It's a couple pages long. And a great percentage of what he writes, I mean, it's about Rotary and their church and stuff, but a great percentage of it is that I went, you know, to these activities at the community college. And while I know we're not a community college, you get these people into the door, and we were just talking about getting people to come talk about their career. And sometimes people will say, oh, well, I got to take a day off work, I can't do it. But many of these senior citizens have had really interesting careers, you know, like my grandpa, he was a veterinarian and then became a USDA meat inspector, and when he retired, instead of going and working at Walmart as a greeter, he decided to drive a school bus for like 20 years until he was like 85 years old or something like that. He'd go along these rural roads and run school routes. But there's stories that they can go and tell these kids that some people with careers, we can't get them in sometimes, but if we can cultivate these relationships with stuff like this card, we get them into the schools, and it's good for our community, it's good for our kids, it's good for bonds and levies eventually. It's harder to vote against kids that you know and teachers that you know, so I think it's a great idea to get that portion of our community more involved when sometimes their kids graduate and leave. Some people just kind of check out of that part of the community, but if we can get them more involved, I love the idea.
I think one of the concerns with bonds and levies is that if people are on a fixed income, it's difficult for the taxes, and I think that there are ways around that. I think there are things that they can do to be exempt from certain parts of that, but I think it's a good way to express appreciation and involvement, like Mr. Lerman is saying. And all the regular activities and plays and events, I think, are great to have them into. I think coming into the school for meals, I think that would work. That concerns me a little bit, you know, and making sure we're thoughtful about that and providing some opportunity to come into our schools at mealtime, which our schools are obviously extremely overcrowded. But so that's my only hesitancy there. But I agree, like in a community event that everyone else can go to, there shouldn't be anything done about that. But expanding it to all of the Tri-Cities and having them come to our schools and for meals, not that I'm against that, but I think we need to be thoughtful with that.
just to be clear, I absolutely hear your concern around safety issues, and we echo that as well. But just for clarification, the lunch benefit is for Pasco residents only in Pasco schools. It's not Tri-City wide, anyone can come to. That is a benefit that was already extended to our seniors, and it would remain, that piece would remain Pasco residents in Pasco schools. And certainly there would be an expectation that they check in as a visitor and we would know where they were and so forth.
All right, we'll bring this back to you for second reading and approval in January then.
All right, thank you, Ms. Thornton. Any community comments? Seeing none, we'll move to action items, agenda item 11, action items 11A. Ms. Thornton.
Right. For your consideration this evening, we are bringing back the revised board priorities for the 2018 legislative session and the board guiding positions. The three board priorities that you've identified and that we'll be asking you to take action on, these are the three areas in which Marie Sullivan and district staff will be taking an active role in pursuing during the 2018 legislative session. The first priority concerns a second round of K-3 grant funding related to classroom construction. The second priority relates to certain impacts of HB 2242. For us specifically, the impact of the way that they've structured the additional LAP funds and also the impact of the salary regionalization factor, as well as allowing for action on other things that we may identify as we're unpacking that legislation. We would also continue to advocate to increase the number of ECAP slots supporting our low-income community. The guiding positions, these are not positions that we're necessarily going to be taking an active role in pursuing, but if legislation is introduced or we are asked to comment or participate, this provides staff and Ms. Sullivan direction for how the board would like us to go.
Thank you. Any discussion from the board? I think these are ones that we've discussed in a study session previously, so these shouldn't be unfamiliar to you, but certainly if anybody has any questions or comments, now's the time. If not, we need to take some action. Is that correct?
There is a motion in your, should be a motion in your packet.
Yeah, there is a motion. So do I have a motion?
I move to approve the Pasco School District Board of Directors 2018 legislative priorities and 2018 guiding positions as presented.
I'll second the motion.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the Pasco School District Board of Directors 2018 legislative priorities and guiding positions. Any discussion? Ms. Richardson, will you please call roll? Yes.
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 Motion carries. So let me get back to, come on. Next we'll move to agenda item 11B, Pro-Con Committee for Voters Guide, Mr. Howard Roberts.
Board President Christensen, Superintendent Whitney, members of the board. This item is part of the process the district needs to follow for the February 13th of 2018 levy election. Franklin County requires jurisdictions placing measures on the ballot to appoint members to pro and con committees who are willing to write statements for the county's voter guide. An invitation to submit applications was printed twice in the Tri-City Herald and posted to the district's website, Facebook page. The following responses were received for the committee advocating approval. That's the Pro Committee: Marcia Stillwell, Meredith Taylor, and Ashley Fisher. For the committee advocating rejection, or the Con Committee: Roger Link, Pamela Follansby, Maria Smith, and Michelle Bodine. With that, I invite your consideration of appointing the applicants mentioned using the suggested motion in your packet.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion? Any discussion?
Can we have discussion?
We can do that now or later. Either way.
Yeah, before the motion.
Sure.
There's 4 names there. Is it? And in the past we're only allowed to accept 3, and we've just taken the first 3 names. Are these names on the con committee listed in order of how they were submitted?
Yes, that's correct. The first 3 came as a group, and then the 4th one came
separately.
Yeah.
Does it matter if they're spelled correctly or not? I just noticed a typo.
Ooh. Yes, because I have to put on an application.
Marcia Stillwell is not spelled correct. I don't think that's how you spell your name, is it?
M-A-R-C-I-A.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. We'll get that corrected.
So I have some comments, and I have many concerns. I'm extremely concerned about inaccuracies that were in the voter's guide for the bond proposal. And most people probably aren't aware of this, but even though this is an official voter's guide and what most people use as a resource for measures like this, the statements are really not reviewed for accuracy by any person or people or official committee. Now, the pro committee and the con committee review each other's statements, and they provide a rebuttal. But in their statements, all of the statements that both of these people make, they are not reviewed for accuracy by anyone. And I think that's really unfortunate. We don't have much recourse as a community or as a school district when inaccurate information is posted in the official voter's guide and online. And that really bothers me. It's not our fault. It's an issue that needs to be looked at legislatively, but that is a major issue. And so I'm extremely concerned about the past voter's guide and inaccurate information that was in that guide. And that's what I will say.
When people submit theirs as a package, are they each required to submit by themselves, or can one person just submit 3 names and names of their friends? Did each person in that package submit a separate request?
I think you can submit them as a group. I mean, we've accepted them as a group as long as individual information is there. Their address, their contact information.
Okay.
All right, so any additional discussion? We need a motion of some kind. So there will be 3 appointed to the committee. And we've got 4, so we need to narrow that down to 3.
Okay, so I think that we should vote on the pro, because there's 3 there. So I think if we start by voting, making a motion on the pro committee.
Okay.
To start.
I would entertain a motion.
Okay. I will make a motion to accept the 3, Marcia, Meredith, and Ashley for the pro committee.
All right, so we have a motion for the pro committee for the 3 listed.
I second that motion.
Second. Do we, let's have a roll call. Yes.
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 All right, so that motion is approved. Now we need a motion for the con committee for the upcoming levy. No takers.
Well, gosh, it's tough that one person can submit other people's names, because our practice has been to take the first 3 submitted.
I'm confident that this is the same group that's done it for a number of years. I don't think that any of them would be unaware that their name is not there.
Yeah.
I do know that Maria Smith is going to be moving. I know Maria personally. I've spoken with her, and I know that she is soon to be moving to Idaho. So I guess I'm a little surprised that she's on the list, but. Not to throw a wrench in it.
Do they need to be registered voters at the time of the election, or is there any rules on that, Ms. Thornton?
I'm not sure how soon she's moving either. I just know that.
I'm just curious what we check. Is it just 3 names of community members, or do they have to be registered voters? What's the rules for this?
No.
Now? Yes, awesome. You can hear me now. Looking at the language in 29A 32-280, the only requirement is that they be individuals who are known to the board to be opposed to the ballot measures. So there's no formal requirement that they need to be submitted as individuals. They can be submitted in the format that they've submitted the names previously, and there's no residency requirement either.
So I could get 2 of my relatives out of state and submit all 3 of our names and put us all up there as pro or con members as a hypothetical?
Hypothetically, you could submit those names, and then it would be up to the legislative body to approve them or not.
I have the same concerns about this group that did print some false things. I wish there was some way to at least encourage them to do their homework and due diligence to make sure these are valid statements. But I think we probably should do it how we've done it in the past, and that's to take the first 3 that were submitted. From what I understand, they can all get together and decide this. They're just not officially on the committee.
That's correct. I was going to make that point. I mean, it's important to note that that these folks that you appoint will have their names listed underneath the section on the pro or con, but they can get help from other people who want to help at any time. And I generally will send an email advising each applicant, here's who we selected. You're welcome to get in touch if they weren't selected. You're welcome to get in touch with the rest of the group as well. Just kind of doing my part. And then I have to turn it over to the county basically from there. But
So it works both ways. I mean, if somebody sees a name on there that they don't particularly trust, then that might influence them to vote the other way, right? So I don't know that we need to belabor this, but we do need to identify 3 names. I would make the motion myself, but
I motion to put Roger Lank, Pamela Follansby, and Maria Smith on the committee advocating rejection.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to add Roger Link, Pamela Follansby, and Maria Smith to the con committee for the upcoming levy election, February 13, 2018. Could we get a roll call, please? Yes.
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 No.
Okay, motion carries.
thank you.
We have a pro and a con committee. So that concludes our action items for this evening's meetings. Now we'll move to the consent agenda. And I get to read through each of these. Is that how this works?
Yes.
All right. On the consent agenda, personnel, warrants, salary schedules, lease of Kids World Facility, Board Policy 3300, corrective action and discipline, second reading. Resolution 948, acceptance of the commissioning report for the Pasco High Phase 3 project. Approval of architect and engineering selection for elementary number 17. Approval of architect and engineering selection for Stevens Middle School. Approval of architect and engineering selection for middle school number 4, design and construction. Approval to request for the city of Pasco to vacate the city right-of-way for the East Duluth Street in East Pasco. Approval to relocate 2 portables, 1 each to Emerson and McClintock Elementary Schools. And Resolution 949, adopt order dispensing with records index. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
There's a motion. Can I get a second?
Second the motion.
Any discussion? If not, could we get a roll call, please? Yes.
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 Okay, agenda item number 13, future agenda items.
So this is our only meeting for December, so we will be back together next year in 2018, and we're excited about that. We're going to have a study session where Assistant Superintendent Thornton will provide some additional information as requested by the board on school board elections. We also will start our first school report. Marie Curie staff will be here to report to us. We're going to also do that during a study session, so we may have a little bit of an extended study session that time. We will, during the board meeting, we'll do a data bite on the fall STAR data and also the outrageous outcome on extracurricular activities. And again, I just want to wish everyone a happy holiday season.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitney. I should have said this earlier, but I'm going to take a minute now and just thank Mr. Lehrman for his leadership over the past 2 years. I've worked with Scott pretty closely since we've been on the board. We've traveled to meetings together and have had some good visits. And I can tell you, I appreciate Scott and his leadership and his ability to see and do things. So I'm not sure that there's going to be a lot of changes in what we do. Just be a different face and a different name. But thank you, Scott, and look forward to serving in this capacity.
Thank you for those kind words, Mr. Christensen.
Thank you. So there is no executive session, so with that, we are adjourned.